Oh, Jesus, sorry. Apologies. I'm still trying to recover from, yesterday's episode of X-Men 97. But seriously, though, what the actual hell just happened? But we're not talking about X-Men 97. Well, we are going to talk about X-Men related. We're going to be talking about the 90s series, as I mentioned in my X-Men 97 reactions, I did finish binge watching that series, like, pretty much last week. And I'm still sick. Yeah, I think I'm getting better, but I don't know. I was having a runny nose, and yeah, I'm still having a runny nose. That can't be good. Oh, good. But yeah, last week I had finished watching X-Men the animated series, as I've never seen that. Well, now I have, after binge watching 5 seasons, 76 episodes in total, in preparation for X-Men 97, which I was hoping to get it done before 97 was out. Unfortunately, I had to miss at least 4 episodes just to finish the original series. But my quick thoughts on 97, now that we're 5 episodes in. Yeah, after yesterday's episode, this show may have just dethroned Loki and WandaVision for me for best Marvel show on Disney+. But still, let's just talk about the 90s series and just my thoughts overall. I had never seen it until I finished watching all 5 seasons last week. But the next 90s show that I plan on binge watching next would be the 90s Spider-Man show, but I'll be doing that once we get an announcement, release date for when we're getting Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Even though that is a what-if series for MCU Spider-Man. Either way, it's Spider-Man related, so perfect time just to binge watch that. But after watching the 90s series, I'm like in the mood just to watch anything X-Men related, because I know there's like other shows of X-Men. I have been watching Wolverine and the X-Men, as that was a show I remember watching. I still gotta catch up with that, and might as well try to finish up with that. But I guess after that, I'm gonna try to watch the X-Men Evolution show that's also on Disney+. But yeah, I've been also watching X-Men movies in preparation for Deadpool Wolverine that's coming out this July, and we're most likely getting the trailer around the week of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I was hoping this week, but oh well, guess not. But yeah, my background knowledge with the X-Men, I did like the X-Men, but I didn't have a much appreciation for them or love them as much, as I would pretty much prefer the Avengers over the X-Men. And I did try explaining this in my X-Men 97 reactions, as I mentioned, it's kind of hard to explain how I feel about the X-Men. I do like them, but just, I don't know, I guess I could say that they felt just underutilized, or I just don't love them as much as I did with the Avengers, for example, as I would just prefer the Avengers over the X-Men. But again, I don't know how to properly explain how I feel about the X-Men, but here's a realization that I am shocked I just had after finishing the series. Actually, no, this was a realization I had before even finishing the series. As I just watched the episodes of X-Men on Disney+, this is a big realization I had that, oh wow, I can't believe I'm even having this realization, and that is, the Fox movies do not do them justice. And I hope to God the MCU does them justice. No, it blows my mind that I even have that realization, because, well, I do like some of the X-Men movies, especially Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, who, personal favorite X-Men member. But of course, just like some others, which you'll see once I review all X-Men movies in preparation for Deadpool and Wolverine. But no, it blows my mind that, having to watch the movies, I'm like, they don't do these guys justice. What the heck? Are you, no! They don't do them justice! Especially Cyclops in the original X-Men trilogy. Good lord, I feel so bad for Cyclops fans, but hey, they're doing him good with the 97 show, because he's a badass character. I didn't care much for Cyclops until the 97 series, well, also the 90s show, and I'm like, oh, Cyclops is actually cool! Because, say, for example, with the X-Men reboot movie we're getting for the MCU, Cyclops is mainly just the main character. I mean, we just had Wolverine as the main character, but say they have Cyclops as the main character, I'm gonna be like, oh man, so Wolverine's not gonna be main character or anything? I wouldn't be okay with that, because I would rather have Wolverine's main character, but now I'm to see him in the 90s and 97, I'm now fine with it. I mean, I hope they don't make Wolverine as a side character. Then again, they probably won't. They'll probably introduce a love triangle between him, Wolverine, and Jean Grey, but no, basically, I would now be fine with him as a main character or something. I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts I now want to see a lot of expectations I now have for the X-Men reboot that I could probably do a separate video of whenever I have the chance to. But no, Cyclops is actually a cool character, and I can't believe he's been done dirty in both the original trilogy and in the other X-Men movies. Now, I've said this before and I will say it again. As much as I am a Marvel fan, I'm only a fan by the movies. I don't know what happens in the comics, especially with X-Men. I barely know much about X-Men, but having to watch the 90s series, while I am still a bit confused on some storylines here and there, I think this kind of helped me out a bit, understanding some lore about the X-Men, as I do find it fascinating with the whole mutants and how humans feel about them and everything. Like, just, even though they are like Marvel superheroes, like, they're like two separate teams. We got X-Men and Avengers that are just a bit separate. Sort of. Actually, I can't find a similarity. Oh, good lordy. Sorry, there. But so, though, I do find it fascinating, and it's going to be interesting to see how it's all going to be played out in the MCU, as we're now seeing some X-Men characters pop up here and there in some MCU movies, like Professor X and Multiverse of Madness, then Beast in the Marvels, spoiler alert, and now we're getting Wolverine and Deadpool Wolverine, but also, Ms. Marvel's a freaking mutant herself, along with Namor. So yeah, I am excited for the X-Men to be finally coming to the MCU, because it's about damn time, but still, though, let me just cut to the chase. The X-Men series, how would I just best describe it? This is basically a Bible for me, just to better understand the X-Men and the lore behind it. Like, I got to learn some bits and details here and there. Well, I am still confused on some bits here and there with the storylines. I understood some of it, or most of it. Well, probably 75% of it I understood. Well, 25% of it, I'm still trying to figure out. But then again, after watching Doomblazer's video about why the X-Men series was canceled back then, it explains why there's some episodes that felt a bit odd, especially with animation, which, even though this was like out in the 90s, the animation was pretty decent, but there were some that are not too great. But no, I completely forgot that I watched the video from Doomblazer, and he mentioned that some of these episodes aired out of order, which would explain why I was confused on, like, wait a minute. Okay, so they know that Jean Grey is alive, but now we're on to a different storyline? What? Hold on. Well, okay, I'm a little confused here. Are these episodes in order? Let me Google them up, but now that makes sense. Some of these episodes were aired out of order, which I don't know what is the proper order if I were to binge watch them all again, but just, still though, that would explain why I was confused on some bits. But with that being said, I am still confused on some storylines here and there, despite the episodes being aired out of order. But yeah, I now have a big appreciation for the X-Men. Like, I now love them as much as I love the Avengers, for example. Like, having to watch the 90s series basically changed my perspective on the X-Men. Because, not to say that I didn't like them. I did like them. Just thought they were basically sidelined. Like, they just, something didn't feel right. And again, I don't know how to properly explain how I feel about it, but I do like the X-Men. It's just, I guess the word I'm looking for is that they were done dirty. They just, like, now, like, I can now see why I feel this way about the X-Men. Because having to see the series and compare it to the movies, it's 20th Century Fox's fault for just doing them dirty. Now, I will say, not everything they did was bad. There are definitely some choices I did not agree with, especially in the third X-Men movie. Like, no, I was pissed off with some bits here and there, especially they killed off, like, no, I will agree with everyone. Cyclops was done dirty in the X-Men movies. But I hope he's a badass dude in the MCU, which, well, great, now I'm definitely going to have to make a video of what I would like to see in the X-Men MCU movie. But yeah, I was confused with what is the lineup for the X-Men, but now having to watch the series, I now know what is the lineup for, because we got, like, different lineups in the movies, but the lineup here for X-Men 97, well, still, the lineup here for the 90s and 97 would be, of course, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Jubilee, Beast, Storm, Gambit, Rogue, and, like, oh, yeah, there's also Morph, but also Bishop is now included. But from what I've gathered, Magneto is now a good guy in the 97 show, but in here, of course, he's a villain, but not gonna lie, he was barely a villain throughout this entire series. I mean, he was the main villain for Season 1. Well, in Season 2, he had to team with Charles Xavier to find out what was going on, because one time, their powers weren't working as there's in the Savage Land. Something I did heard about. I'm like, okay, this is something X-Men related. But yeah, most of the time, he was just a good guy. Not that I'm complaining. I'm fine with that. I could see him having a redemption arc for the MCU. Like, now, I doubt he'll probably be the main villain for the main MCU movie, because I heard that Sinister may be the main villain for the X-Men reboot, which, let's talk about the villain. So, yeah, as much as I dug Magneto in here, even though he was barely a villain, mainly for Season 1, and was just teaming up with Charles Xavier sometimes here and there, from Season 2 to 4, no, Season 2 to 5, I mean. I definitely like some of the other villains in here, like Mr. Sinister, but also Apocalypse, which I'm not too big fan of his design in here, because having to see him in X-Men Apocalypse, but also in the 90s show, I'm like, this is what Apocalypse looks like? Okay, not too much of a fan of that, but I will say, I hope the MCU gives us comic accurate suits, instead of just uniforms that they wear in the movies. I dig some of the uniforms in the Fox movie, but I want to see them in their comic accurate costumes, and they could totally pull it off. I mean, look at Wolverine here! This is 20 years it took us. 20 years it took us just to see Hugh Jackman in his comic accurate costume. Like, Marvel, I need you to give us comic accurate costumes for the entire X-Men in the MCU. Like, oh my god, I have huge expectations! But I'm like trying to figure out which X-Men villain is like the Thanos villain. Whether that's Apocalypse or Mr. Sinister. Because I might as well compare the X-Men villains to the Avengers films. Like, Magneto might as well be the Loki for the X-Men. And then Mr. Sinister could either be the Thanos or Ultron for them. I don't know. I could say that Apocalypse is most likely the Thanos villain for the X-Men. I don't know. I'm stuck in between because they are both menacing villains. Especially Mr. Sinister, who was pretty sinister in the series. Especially in Season 2, as he was the main villain for Season 2. And is looking to be the main villain for Season 3. I mean, not Season 3. For 97, I mean. God! Sorry, I'm talking too fast, but getting it mixed up. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be the main villain for the 97 show. Let's talk about other villains that aren't like super villains. Like, the Friends of Humanity was, oh my god. I hated them so much in Season 2, because after, I forgot the Kelly, I think it was Senator Kelly or something. The dude, Kelly, the Kelly is the, I forgot what was his name, other than, like, I think it was something Kelly, but, he despised the humans, but then once Beast saved him, he was like, oh, okay, I guess not all mutants are bad. I apologize, we could let mutants live in society, because not all of them are bad. Well, his followers were not too pleased about that and just started causing riots all over the freaking city with whenever there's a mutant out. Like, no, it's crazy. But what I know is another thing that's crazy. The way humans feel about the mutants, I feel like they're being like, this is crazy for me to think this way. Unless I probably am not the only one, but the way they feel about the mutants, it's like they're being racist to them. Like, it's similar with how people would feel about other people that have different color of skin. Like, no, I see a little bit of racism here and there for the mutants. Like, what? Damn, all this is really fascinating me with mutants and everything. Because, well, yes, some have different appearances or have abilities or have both. They are technically, I guess, still human. They just were born mutants. Which, how does this even work for mutants? Is there, like, a gene that just pops up out of nowhere? I'm actually now just realizing that. So wait, I could say it's like a virus thing, but so you're just either born a human or you're just born a mutant, whether you are gonna look different or gonna have different abilities or have both. I don't know. I'm now just realizing this. God, this is all so fascinating for me. But no, like all this is just blowing my mind. Like I just had like. It's crazy how I now have a changed perspective on the X-Men, having just to watch 5 seasons of an old animated series. Now, I did do reviews for each season, and I'm thinking Season 2 is probably the best season for me? I don't know. I mean, I did like Season 1 to 4. Season 5 just felt a bit underwhelming for me, personally. And I did feel like Beast wasn't shown much in Season 1. Then again, he was technically in prison, but I did enjoy his character once he started to pop up a lot more throughout Season 2 to 5. But yeah, as much as Wolverine's like my personal favorite X-Men, I definitely enjoy the other members in here, like Gambit or Rogue or Storm. Like Storm was a great character, especially Professor X. Like no, they are just all great overall. But for coolest character, it's probably gonna go with Bishop. Yeah, he was good. He was a cool character in here, and yeah, I was glad to see him pop up in '97. But now he's back to his. Actually, I'm so confused how he was even in the. And how he was even in 1997, because technically he's from a different timeline. I don't know. There's just still some stuff I'm trying to figure out because I'm still confused with some certain storylines here and there. Like, for example, I didn't even know Cable was Cyclops and Jean Grey's son. Also, Cable's design. I could say I'm not too much of a fan of it, but hey, I mentioned I want to see these guys in comic accurate costumes. Give me Cable in his comic accurate form in the MCU. I mean, I know we got Cable in the Deadpool movies. That design I prefer, but again, give me comic accurate costumes for the MCU. I want to see comic accurate costumes for the X-Men characters. But let's talk about the romance that was shown in here a few times here and there. I'm a bit 50-50. Actually, no, I'm not 50-50. I actually do like Cyclops and Jean Grey's romance in here. Well, yes, there's a love triangle going on with Wolverine having a thing for Jean Grey. I actually do like the romance between Cyclops and Jean Grey, but my most personal favorite is going with Gambit and Rogue. Oh God, tell me he's not dead! Oh shoot, I probably should have put a spoiler warning. If you've not seen 97, go check it out. It is possibly one of the best Marvel shows that we've gotten on Disney+. But yeah, Gambit and Rogue is probably my favorite Marvel ship there for the X-Men. But there was another romance that was going on, I think, in season 4, and that was Wolverine and Storm were a thing. Now that, I'm actually, I would probably be down for that. Like, I could say that, oh, I prefer Wolverine and Jean Grey, but I'm actually down with Wolverine and Storm being a thing. When will that happen? Actually, that's a good question. Will that happen in the MCU or in the 97 show? I will say, both Wolverine and Charles Xavier had so many different love interests throughout the series. Like Charles Xavier had like 3 different love interests, but also Wolverine had like 3 or 4. I don't know. It's like they both have one thing in common, and that is Riz. I can't make the Riz face. Only my brother can. But yeah, there's just so much thoughts I want to talk about, especially with certain storylines like the Dark Phoenix storyline. Apparently, the Fox movies have not done that right. Like, they basically fumbled that storyline twice, from what I've heard. But I have hope that if the MCU does tackle the Phoenix storyline, they'll do that justice. I mean, you know what people say, third time's the charm. Like, no, there's just so much thoughts I want to talk about with this series. And another thing, I will describe it. Like, not only was this a Bible for me to understand the entire lore of X-Men, but even though this is old animation and this was around like the 90s, which is totally understandable, this show is basically on the same level as Clone Wars of being peak television. Because during quarantine, I had watched 6 seasons in total, and just to watch season 7 of the Clone Wars. I almost said Bad Batch, but still, like, no, Clone Wars and X-Men 90s show have one thing in common, and that is they're both peak television show. So yeah, this show honestly blew me away. I now have a different perspective on the X-Men, and it blows my mind that the movies do not do them justice, and I hope to God the MCU does them justice. Like, God, I am now holding so much expectations. More than how much I have big expectations for the Avengers films. Like, what the heck? But my overall rating for the series is going to be a 9 out of 10 for me. I really had a good time watching just 5 seasons of X-Men content. And, like, I'm now in the mood just to watch X-Men content throughout the entire year. Because I feel like 2024 is the year for X-Men, the mutants. Because we're getting Deadpool Wolverine, as that's going to feature some cameos of the X-Men, possibly. But we also have X-Men 97 out, which, yeah, X-Men 97 is basically season 6, a revival series of the 90s show. But if they were like movies, I would say that the 97 series is a superior sequel to the original. Like, no, it is crazy how insanely good that show is. Like, still, you'll know my thoughts once the series concludes around May something. I don't know. We got about 5 episodes left now that we're 5 down, as there's about 10 episodes in total, but just no, like, no, I did not know what I was getting myself into watching the 97 series, but just, yeah, those are just my thoughts with the animated show. Definitely gonna do a review for the Spider-Man 90s show once I finish binge watching all 5 seasons of that, but I will say this. If Marvel can revive the 90s X-Men show, revive other Marvel animated shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, but also the 90s Spider-Man, and have the same tone and animation style, just like how X-Men 97 does. Which they might as well title that Spider-Man 98. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on X-Men 90 show that came out in 1992, but ended around 1996. So yeah, be sure to leave the thoughts, comments down below. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Also, here's one thing I forgot to mention. The theme song. It freaking slaps. Like, I would listen to it on a goddamn loop. And I hope the MCU uses this theme song for their MCU reboot.
Previously on X-Men.